Change lives.
Join us on I-95.5 FM every Tuesday at 2 p.m. and Thursday at 1:30 p.m. for alternative health solutions located at Eden Heights Clinic, number 13 Montague Avenue, Trinity. Call 640-8985 or 763-5292 to book your appointment now. Alternative Health Solutions. Every second and fourth Tuesday on I-95.5 FM at 1:05 p.m. Tune into the program Lifestyle 101. They offer QMRA body scan, 4-dimension body scan, and energetic therapy analysis, organic solutions for stem cells, chromosomes, trace minerals, and hydration. Also, test your pH level, blood pressure, and cholesterol. You can also get your health drinks and health supplements. In this program, you will gain expert advice on how to build and maintain good health. For more information, call 736-7358. So, tune in every second and fourth Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. on I-95.5 FM for the program Lifestyle 101.
This Sunday on episode 3 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
As we enter a new year, burdened with a record number of murders, you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, will have questions about your safety and security. Well, wait no longer. This Sunday, Garth and Natasha welcome the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Fitzgerald Hinds. Minister Hinds will give an account of his ministry's accomplishments for 2022 and bring you, the citizen, up to speed on the ministry's goals and objectives for the law enforcement community, the migrant community, and your community in 2023. Listen live from 10 a.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
This Sunday on episode 3 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
As we enter a new year, burdened with a record number of murders, you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, will have questions about your safety and security. Well, wait no longer.
Giving you all the praise from my heart, from the deepest part of me.
Must Rasta bear this cross alone and all the heathens go free? Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Must Rasta live in misery and heathens in luxury? Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
It's coming to tear down the walls of oppression, drive away transgression, clean up corruption, rule equality. Must righteous live in pain and always put to shame? Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Must they be found guilty and always get the blame? Just say no.
Just say no.
Father, say no.
Just say no.
He's gonna tear down the walls of oppression, drive away transgression, clean up the corruption, set the captives free. He will not give I and I more than I can bear. Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
He will not make Lucifer get your soul to smear. Just say no.
Just say
My
no.
Father say no.
Just say no.
He man go tear down the walls of a Babylon, clean up the corruption, drive away transgression, rule equality. I against the stone, just say no. Father say no.
Just say no.
No form of destruction won't crumble my bones. Just say no. My father say no.
Just say no.
Him a go tear down the walls of a Babylon, eliminate Satan, clean up corruption, rule equality. So I will not bear this cross alone, and all the world go free. Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
I will not stay poor, living in poverty. Just say no. My father say no.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Dependency right here on I-95.5 FM, live on the Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning, Natasha.
Morning, guys. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. We are finally blessed with the presence of the Honorable Minister of National Security after a slight delay from last week. And incidentally, Minister, the reason why my hair is now short is as a direct result of what we were discussing last week. the bane of most women, menopause, perimenopause. So I had to cut it off. But we are happy to have you in studio this morning for you to explain to us and to the nation all about what the ministry is doing regarding all of its numerous responsibilities in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay?
Morning, Minister, and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you all very, very much for your welcome. And in advance, I thank your listenership for their time and their attention on these very important matters. Let me say, though, notwithstanding the reason why you would have cut your hair, it looks particularly beautiful.
Thank you.
It doesn't change your spirit because you are not your body.
Correct.
You live in there.
Yes.
And more than that, it's a small price to pay for the joy, the blessing, the beauty of being a woman.
Indeed. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
So, Minister, you have been in the proverbial hot seat for how long now? And we have, excuse me, my manners, we have our common specialist, one of our communications persons in studio with us as well from the Ministry of National Security. We welcome her as well, who will be taking in the proceedings in the background. But, Minister, yes, you have been in the hot seat for how many years now, remember?
I have been here now for approaching 2 years.
2 years.
In the month of April, I would have completed 2 years in this office.
Yes.
And to a large extent enjoying it, understanding what the goal and the vision is, understanding the difficulties, understanding the context, the circumstance, the society, international flows, how it bears in on us, and doing the job with great gusto, and thanking all those who lend support inside of the Ministry of National Security and outside in order to do this important work for and on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, and I mean, 2 years, and the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago expected miracles from you and the Ministry of National Security, but not, I don't even remember that the Ministry of National Security is one of the more demanding ministries of government, given its mandate, especially with 3 general areas of responsibility. That's maintenance of law and order, public safety, defense against aggression, management of disaster preparedness and relief, and also monitoring and control the flow of persons into and out of the country. So now, for people for persons who may not understand the complexity of this ministry, Minister, can you provide a synopsis of the divisions, agencies and units that fall within the mandate of the Ministry of National Security?
Yeah, we have Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We have the Defense Force, which consists of the 4 formations, that is to say, the Regiment, the Coast Guard, the Air Guard, and the Reserve Battalion. We have the Prison Service. We have the Immigration Division. We have the Lifeguards. We have the Forensic Science Center. We have the Justice Protection Program. We have the Mercy Committee. We have the Defense Council. It's a very wide probation service.
And you also have the
Counter-trafficking
unit.
The task force on human trafficking.
Yeah. Dealing with human trafficking is a very wide-ranging ministry with lots of roots and implications. So it's that.
So would you like to expand on what would you, where do you sit now with all of these agencies?
Well, since I came to this desk, I have been working very closely with all of the divisions. Obviously, police tends to take priority over because we are in a place where that is requisite. So I would think, most of my time and attention dealing with issues around the police, followed closely by the Defense Force. All of this, I work closely with all of these agencies because part of my job involves solving their problems, because when I, on your behalf, demand more of them, when I demand more of them on behalf of the government, the cabinet to whom I report, and the National Security Council chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister, as I demand more, they would reveal to me some of the reasons why they are unable to do certain things or not doing it efficiently. So a large chunk of my job involves solving problems, and these are multifaceted. They come in large numbers and they come in torrents on a daily basis. Issues to be resolved, from personnel, human resource issues, to equipment, to facilities where they are housed. I mean, they complain about paucity of their working accommodation, a whole lot of stuff. So it's a work in progress, it's ongoing. And we largely have shaped our policy in the Ministry of National Security. For an example, border security is our highest priority, recognizing that we are an island state, and we have a few major legal ports of entry, our airports and our seaports. But we have a whole plethora of other entry points that are not established, but illegal points of entry. And people do make use of them. So for those reasons, and the fact that a lot that is happening here has international roots and beginnings. For example, we don't produce drugs in Trinidad in any large quantities. We don't produce any guns and ammunition here. And these things are a problem to us. The human trafficking largely comes from outside into Trinidad, and inside of that, all of the responsibilities that we have assumed in our migrant registration framework, and a fair handful of criminals come as well. Many of them outside of the framework that we have, but they are in Trinidad operating. And border security, therefore, is our highest priority.
And in that, just to expand on that a little bit, in the sense that the ministry doesn't operate alone. It can't. in terms of all of the responsibilities that you've identified and secure the nation. So there must be a lot of collaboration with all of the local entities that you mentioned, as well as regional and international stakeholders.
Absolutely.
So could you tell us a little bit about the partnerships that the ministry has built?
Absolutely.
To impact on our national security?
We interface very directly with many agencies local. Most of all, there are 4 arms of national security that articulate with the criminal justice system. We have the police service, we have the prison service, we have the probation service, and of course the Forensic Science Center. These 4 institutions in national security articulate with the highway of the criminal justice system. So we collaborate effectively, regularly, deeply and meaningfully with the judiciary through the conduit of the Attorney General, because that's the way in which it is done. In an effort to assist them and they assist us, because when the police arrest and charge someone, we are now in the hands of the judiciary. When the police seize a firearm or seize drugs or anything that needs testing, ballistic testing, biological testing for DNA purposes and what have you, it is the Forensic Science Center that does that. And then we have we relate to the Ministry of Social Development, we relate to the Ministry of Education, because you have problems of violence in the schools, you have issues across Trinidad and Tobago. So we take a whole of government, and the government through the Prime Minister has recently promised that we will enhance our whole of society approach, because we realize all elements of the society has a role to play in this fight against crime.
Of course, we can't rely on the government alone.
And the Prime Minister has therefore announced a national consultation where we will give the public an opportunity, and all the opinion shapers and those who have views, and there are many, an opportunity to contribute what you can, what you want to. Now, many do, They write letters, they meet me on the streets, they attend meetings at our ministry. We interface with a lot. But this is going to be a more formal national consultation where the public will have an opportunity, the intellectuals will have an opportunity to have their say. So we also collaborate with regional agencies, the chief of which is CARICOM Impacts, which is a CARICOM agency designed for the security of the region. We have deep collaboration with CARICOM Impacts, and of course, as well, we collaborate internationally. We have many international friends, the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, China, and others, where we collaborate deeply, and generally speaking, they provide information intelligence sharing, they provide technical support, best practice, technological advancement and support. They provide, in many cases, equipment. They provide on a large basis training opportunities for our personnel, so that it cannot be said that we are not exposed to the best that exists in the world. And therefore, these collaborations, we have signed MOUs with every one of them. As you would see recently, China has very kindly consented to contribute in support of our financial input as well, a Forensic Science Center, which will be a significant improvement on the one that we now have. And we expect that we will enhance our service in the Forensic Science Center as a consequence of that to the criminal justice system, and generally speaking to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, Minister, before you go on, I just want to let people know, if you're joining us, you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, of course, and we have in studio with us the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Fitzgerald Hinds, and what the Minister is speaking to, we are putting up images as well. You know, they say the proof is in the pudding, so he's not just saying that, but we have the images that if you're interested in seeing them, you can join us. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, on EYE, on Dependency, or on Facebook of the same name. Mister, go ahead.
So collaboration and cooperation is critical to what we do. Let me just say very quickly, the business of national security is really treating with, just as the Ministry of Health deals with bodies, and in some cases minds in their psychiatric outreach. And we in national security, we deal with human behavior. At the end of the day, it is about trying to manage the social compact, the social contract, where we have a constitution and we have laws and we have a common shared morality, but there are individuals who will act outside of those. So it is at the end of the day about human behaviors, and this is one of the things, Garth and Natasha, that makes it so complex, because as I say regularly, in my own understanding, all crimes are sins, but not all sins are crimes. Essentially, we are dealing with sometimes the worst excesses of the sinful nature of human beings. You can't tell what a human being would think or would do. So some of those sins and behaviors, the society and the parliament, and before this parliament, we would have brought in some crimes from pre-independence. They are branded or regarded as crimes that are worthy of prosecution by the state. Jealousy is a sin, but it's not a crime. To hate is a sin, but it's not a crime.
Right.
But to murder, to kidnap, to rape, to steal, to commit arson, these are crimes. And essentially, these are the things we are dealing with. But it's not only a matter for the police, because you have the Forensic Science Center that has a role to play there. You have the criminal justice system. And along the way, it is human beings who operate all of these systems. And they too, in many cases, are now known, well, always known, to also be victims of sinful things. Of course. So it is a very complex issue, you know. I saw, by way of example, and I could give many locally, but I will venture an international example, where the United States sent 3 DEA agents, Drug Enforcement Agency agents, to fight crime in South America, and the 3 of them ended up being charged for trafficking drugs.
Yes. Yes.
So even the very people who are supposed to support this
Uphold the law, yes.
are sometimes, and you would have seen the police charge many of their own, and charge members of the customs and immigration and defense force and teachers and lawyers and, you know, doctors, and it is a human condition. And at the end of the day, national security is about maintaining that social compact and ensuring that those who breach it and threaten us, steal our property, steal our freedom, impose themselves in the way, because right now in this society, people are feeling like they're under siege. People don't want to go out at night. People are afraid in their own homes. That is what the criminal community is doing to us. And therefore, we as a society, in a whole of society and certainly a whole of government approach, has to fight back. And let me just say quickly, I read this morning at about 4 a.m. when I got up to pray and to prepare myself for this new day. I read an article written in today's Guardian by a young woman called Ira Mathur. It is captioned "Blood on Your Hands," and it is one of the most balanced and fair and demonstrably understanding, conscious, aware postures in an article I have long seen.
Irma Mathur is the president of MAT right now, right?
Yeah, she is.
Right.
I was more than impressed with her depth, her reach, and most of all, her grasp of the reality of this. Barry played a tune, "Must Rasta bear this cross alone?" Some people wrongly think it's one person responsible for all of this, or one organization, but the thing is far more complex than that. The Archbishop Jason Gordon, at his New Year address, told us, as far as he is concerned, the big problem in Trinidad and Tobago is that far too many, the majority of us, are not committed to a sense of justice and fairness. And I add the word righteousness. He said that. Now, if I had said that, I'd be criticized. But he said that because the market vendor will add on some ounces or some price if you don't keep watch. The lawyer will add on some dollars if you don't keep watch. Everybody peeping, one Calypsonian say, well, it might be a different thing with a T. Everybody playing smart. All kind of thing happening here. And then somebody want to point a finger at one man. Here, Ira Matur. Ira Matur says, among other things, she's identifying the problem. She makes reference to the over 600 deaths in the country. And she says, customs. She says, look at the institutions with blood on their hands. She's pointing out, as far as she's concerned, the institutions in this country with blood on their hands. Customs, she starts with. Last year, it was reported that arms were coming in containers, not in the dead of night, but in front of the eyes of custom officers with faulty scanners. Well, of course, that has implications for a lot more, but that is a reality. We have recently, not too recently, I have been paying attention to this. As chairman of the Joint Select Committee on National Security, I had the opportunity with other members of that committee to visit our legal ports and pay particular attention to our security elements in those ports. And we found large gaps, which we reported to the larger parliament. When I went into this office as Minister of National Security, I must tell you, I came with a full understanding of the major gaps. And since border security is the highest priority of the Ministry of National Security, I brought it into focus. And you would be hearing more about the customs within recent times. And you would be seeing far more finds of guns and ammunition and drugs, including not psychotropic substances, but regular drugs that are coming in uncustomed, some of them expired, some of them on the negative lists or banned.
Or pharmaceuticals.
Pharmaceuticals I'm talking about. And that sort of thing. So we have been paying attention. So she got this very right. And we, I can assure the public, are paying immediate attention to what is happening in the customs. You'll be reading about far more fines. I can tell you in that we have improved our technique, we have improved our intelligence, and we have improved our focus on those areas where our legal ports of entry is one of our biggest gaps and troubles. Ira Matur continues, the police. She said the police need to step up to deal with a watertight witness protection program. Now we have two elements of that. We have witness protection and we have justice protection. A lot of people don't understand the distinction. The justice protection is a piece of act, is a legislative framework, and that so far has been working to near quiet perfection. Now, mind you, there are many things I am not able to say. In fact, I venture to suggest to you that 85% of what we do in national security I am not permitted to discuss in public for common sense, obvious reasons.
Well, Mr. Right? Some people comment that is not common sense. That they feel that that everything that national security is doing should be revealed, but it's foolhardy to do that.
Okay, and but the witness protection program is the police now have officers and a unit that is responsible for protecting its witnesses in certain matters. She's saying they need to improve that because yes, there are cases where witnesses feel very vulnerable. They have killed witnesses in Trinidad and Tobago over many, many years. And she said further that rotten eggs have to be cast out of the police service. And I venture to say all of our institutions. And I tell you, there are rotten eggs, very rotten eggs. And the Prime Minister, as chairman of the National Security Council, has on diverse occasions speaking to our heads in national security, speaking at their launches of various programs or when they acquire equipment, have made it very clear to them that the law and the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago permits you to get rid of these people once you find them inside of your ranks creating problems. She goes on to say a digital footprint of criminals should be established or maintained. The answer to that is yes, that is happening. And of course, I think she's implying that more needs to be done, and that is happening. She speaks about the government and opposition as having blood on our hands. She said anti-gang legislation, gun courts, and permission to hold suspects caught with guns in custody for longer periods. We've had some of that. The opposition have opposed some of that, opposed whistleblower, opposed the stringent anti-gang measures that we had proposed. And so the story went, but she's accusing us. She's saying what others have said. There need to be greater collaboration by the opposition and the government in order to achieve success against the criminals. And I generally agree with that. She says in terms of the judiciary, which she identified as having blood on its hands too, according to Ira Mathur, severity of sentences. I, through the Attorney General recently, communicated the view of the law enforcement community that in many cases the sentences imposed by the courts are far too lenient for them to have the deterrent effect. Really? For an example, a gun and ammunition would have yielded fines as small as $3,000 when the gun costs far more than that in terms of cash and in terms of effect on the society.
Now, this is one area that I would like to disagree with you on, Minister, in terms of, because you talked about the responsibility of the government and the society in terms of preventing crime, and there has to be a collaborative approach, and we are dealing with human behaviors. I believe that yes, we are dealing with human behaviors. We are not dealing with human beings in terms of how we sentence, how we prosecute, how we punish, how we administer justice. We are looking at the crime, but not the individual who has committed the crime, because that individual, if he or she goes to prison for any length of time, is going to return to society in most instances. And how do we ensure that that person understands his or her, the crime that he or she has committed, and is able to change that behavior?
Well, let me in answer to you say what you have just said is a very plausible argument. It is not that it does not already exist in Trinidad. There are many elements of that, and I speak from a position of knowledge because I practiced as a lawyer for many years. I wrote legislation along with my other colleagues in the parliament over many years. So I speak from a position of knowledge and experience, and major elements of what you have just described already exist. Insofar as the prison service is concerned, let me just touch away from Ira's article. The prison service itself has a very vibrant rehabilitation program for young people. I listened to the Minister of Youth Development speak in the cabinet last week without revealing our discussions. And one of the things that this country doesn't know is that many of the programs that are available to young people on the outside of the prison are also available to our youth and young people inside of the prison. So I have a long list of the many programs touching on the moral and cognitive elements for inmates, including remandees, inside of the prison. Many of the young men have gone in there on remand or in custody generally after conviction and have notched up 5 and 6 CXC passes and CAPE and developed debating skills and acquire all kinds of skills inside of there, from animal husbandry to upholds all kinds of skills inside of there. Some of the subjects offered, of course, math, English, composition, integrated science, literacy, reading, adult literacy, maths. Academic programs are plenty inside of there. Again, inside of there, ongoing as I speak to you. Principles of accounts, business, economics, they've done it. And many of them have come out. You know that, Mr. Sinclair?
Yes.
Right. Educational issues, academic, communication, studies, management, these are the CAPE level 2. So it's not just CSEC, but CAPE level 2. In terms of tech VOC, YTEP is involved there, counseling, GrowBox, plumbing, woodworking and furniture, electrical installation, information technology, animation, graphics design, food preparation. And I visited the female prison recently, and the young females in there have access to these things as well. So it is no lack of opportunity in that regard. From a cultural standpoint, there are many cultural programs that have been carried on inside of there over many years, and they also touch on the religious and spiritual, where several of the main religions in Trinidad and Tobago, Church of Christ, the Juma services. The Muslims are allowed to carry on their Juma prayers and so on inside of there. Seventh-day Adventists comes in there, the Way of Holiness Church, the Catholic Church, Jehovah's Witnesses, Agape services. And of course, in the realm of life skills and pre-release, Vision and Mission plays a major role with all of its many programs, including the Hope program that we launched some time ago. You were present, Mr. Sinclair.
Yes.
And of course, in terms of sport, they play drafts, checkers, they learn to play chess, dominoes, boxing is very vibrant. We have a young boxing champion. I saw him last week when a couple of weeks ago when I visited the YTC. He's doing particularly well, table tennis and other sports. So I agree with you, but I just wanted you to recall that it does exist.
Yes.
Let me just come back quickly on Ira Matur before I think. She also identified, apart from the severity of sentence, her view that cases are taking too long. Every one of us will agree with that.
Yes.
And I'm aware that the judiciary is taking steps. The government has taken major steps to quicken the criminal justice process. You would have heard the Prime Minister, you would have heard the Attorney General, you would have heard yours truly say that we have made the entire precincts of the Hall of Justice available for criminal proceedings. The entire civil division has gone down to the waterfront where the Parliament used to be. So the 71 rooms in the Hall of Justice are now exclusively jury trials after COVID, which is threatening again, has resumed in criminal matters. We have put the special advocates in place. So when persons don't have a lawyer or their lawyer is caught up in another criminal case, it is now open to a judge to identify an independent professional among the advocates to come and present a defense on behalf of the accused. We have judge-only trials. We have, that means without jury. We have plea bargaining in place. We have increased the number of judges. We have increased the number of Court of Appeal judges. But notwithstanding all of that, there is still a level of slowness. The judiciary will tell you elements of that come from the office of the DPP, where indictments are not coming as fluently as they should. And there's a lot of excuses and all kinds of arguments taking place. But we are conscious of the fact that a swifter criminal justice process, just to let your listeners know, this is not unique to Trinidad. There are many cases and circumstances in the US, in Canada. There's a popular case called Aaron Johnson in Canada a couple of years ago, where a man was charged for drug trafficking. And the matter was resolved after 36 months. His lawyers went to the Canadian Constitutional Court, the Supreme Court eventually, to argue that that was a breach of his constitutional rights. It took too long, and the court in Canada, the Supreme Court, agreed and put an 18-month time limit to complete all criminal matters. As a result of that, it put pressure on the Canadian administration. But what they did is I loosely understand, anecdotally, they would have increased judges, invested more in more courts, and done all things as are necessary to keep the court's dictate of 18 months to complete trial from charge to completion, including appeals. But I have now asked my colleague, the High Commissioner to Canada, a new one who came about 2 weeks ago and paid a courtesy call on me, to identify an academic professional in Canada who I would want to make a request of to give a report on what did Canada do after the Johnson judgment to improving the pace of its criminal justice system, and to see what we could glean from that.
No, Minister, because as you said that, a relative of Ricardo Stevenson contacted me last week, and they have to write again to the DPP to find out, I think it's DPP, yes, to find out remember he has been in prison like for going on 16 years. And the trial started, it stopped because of COVID, it restarted, and then just recently she told me that they have to refer it to another judge, to start again.
Yeah.
And he is there languishing in on remand.
Yeah, we do have those problems. We do
human
have those
trafficking.
problems.
That's another thing, convictions for human trafficking.
Well, I'm waiting communication from the judiciary now. Some research was recently done. I don't want to talk out of school, But I can tell you, in our collaboration through the Attorney General with the judiciary, action is being actively, as we speak, as late as Friday, being taken to deal with some of these matters that are in the magistrates' court for trial in the magistrates' court, and some of those that are on their way to judge trials in the High Court. And it is possible that we may already have had a couple final positions on some of those matters.
really? Okay.
I am
That's
awaiting
wonderful to
a
hear.
correspondence right now to clarify that.
Okay. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency. Minister, I know you have a lot to say.
Yeah.
We have a lot to unpack, folks. Before we take, you want to finish?
I just want to finish with Ira.
Yes.
This potent article. She identifies as well processes for court appearances, plea bargaining. Well, we have that dealing with police officers not turning up in court because there's a large part of the problem. The matter has to be adjourned and adjourned and adjourned and adjourned. What sanctions do you place on a police officer who simply doesn't do his duty by turning up in court? I know he could be disciplined inside of the police service, but we need to do more. And finally, she says of politicians who she alleges, not without some justification, we too have blood on our hands, she says, because we refuse to support one another in the country's best interest. This is an article I propose to keep because, not that I'm unfamiliar with what she has said at all, but because she's probably the first person I've seen to have captured the problem so beautifully, and I really appreciate that.
Right.
And if we ask the wrong questions, we'll never get the right answers.
So, Minister, before we take this break quickly, and if you're just joining us, folks, the voice is familiar to you. We have in studio Minister Fitzgerald Hinds. And one thing I would like to add to when we go back to the prison, is that drug treatment facility that was stopped by another entity. And I look, that's the only thing that's missing, I think, from the rehabilitation process in our nation's prisons. Because remember, we have a lot, and I've been there to speak with them, at least 60% drug-related crimes. And we have a lot of drug addicts in prison just going in and out. And I hope one day that part of the rehabilitation process would be restarted again.
Yeah.
Because we really advocated hard for that, and it was started, and you know what happened. So I'm hoping that it would be done again. And would the government ever consider, we know about Migrant, we know about CCC and all these other youth programs, but you think the government will consider one day mandatory youth service?
Well, I can't anticipate what the government will do. I am only a small part of the government in that limited sense.
Right.
What I do know is that we have established, and I had the benefit of birthing it, the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, which is geared towards doing the same things, imposing a sense of patriotism, a sense of discipline, a sense of respect for children, for women, for the society generally, a sense of respect for property and things, all the human traits that you want to see. They have designed a compact of what you expect to see from the nation's youth once he has come through his childhood years, gone through school, and he's ready for the world of work. What do you want in him? They have contemplated that, and they now have a blueprint. And as you know, a national service facility is now under construction, and we want to establish a number of them around the country, along with the youth camps, which we have revitalized and re-energized and pumped a lot of resources into, and the Minister of Youth Development and National Service is busy doing that. Insofar as the compulsory element of it is concerned, I cannot predict what will happen, but I know it will be available, and I also know in the MILAT programs to which you made reference, some elements of this is already underway. We have had many testimonies.
Yes.
You could bear personal testimony to the success of the national service element inside of that, making the way for many of the young people who are so minded and who would submit themselves to the discipline of that.
Minister, we need you to take a sip. We'll take a break and return because we have lots more to unpack, folks. You're listening to Dependency. Remember, you can join us on Dependency's Facebook page or YouTube channel, those of you on I-95.5 FM.
And we do want you to contribute as well and participate and ask questions. So
continue to send in your questions on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll ask the minister to to indulge us for a few minutes before we close to take some calls from you, the listening public. All right, so stay right there. We'll be back.
I can see clearly now the rain is
At Guardian Group, we've seen so many of our customers achieve great things. From key moments when together we've planned for the future to those unforgettable days when you've celebrated the rewards of those great decisions. So, it's no surprise that after 175 years, our optimism is stronger than ever. Because when you've partnered with people to achieve their best lives as long as we have, you tend to see the world a little brighter every day. Guardian Group. Live easy.
Slavery, a terrible time in our history. The kidnapping, buying and selling of people for profit, the exploitation of another human being. It still exists today. It has a new name: human trafficking. Anyone can be a victim. There is forced labor, sexual exploitation, and domestic servitude. Human trafficking is a worldwide problem and an emerging concern for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. If you know of or suspect human trafficking activity, call the Counter-Trafficking Hotline at 800-4CTU or 800-4288. Human trafficking is a crime. Identify it, report it, stop it. A message from the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security.
$50 by $20, $50 by $25.
This is Kyron Pollard. When you play, do it the legal way. Don't bet on illegal gaming.
Ion Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Ion Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Ion Dependency, and we have in studio the Honorable Fitzgerald Hinds, Minister of National Security, who, as if you joined us from the beginning, you would know that he has come today to regale us with all of the things that is happening in his ministry. But he's sharing a lot of important information, and I hope Ms. Ira Mathur was listening, and he quoted from your article in today's Guardian, and he was agreeing with much of what you said, interestingly enough. So, Minister, if we could press on.
Why is that so surprising?
Well, I mean, you don't often hear politicians agreeing with journalists, right? They don't often.
But
make
we
happy
respect
bedfellows.
intellect and we respect
Right.
honesty
Yes.
and balance.
Gotcha.
You must.
You must.
We are mere mortals, you know.
So you mentioned that border security is priority for your ministry in terms of dealing with illegal migration and illegal weapons and narcotics. So what are some of the measures that have been put in place to strengthen our borders?
Right.
Short man, give us image D with this
As
one.
all equipment in
C&D.
your house, including your motor car, even your own body, human body, equipment requires maintenance, upkeep, upgrade, improvement. So within the last 2 years since I'm at the desk, we found it necessary to upgrade our radar system, our coastal radar system, and I can now give you and the public the assurance that it is 100% operational, functional.
Right.
Every aspect of it. But of course, upgrade because technology is improving, changing all the time. And this is one of the other things. Trinidad and Tobago is not a major producer of technology, so we have to pay large amounts of money and license fees to get a lot of the things that we need. It costs money, plenty money. Hence the reason why national security gets the kind of allocation on an annual basis that it does. But we have to. Good. So we have improved, and we now have a functional radar system. An upgrade is under focus as we speak. We introduced, of course, the Coastal and Riverine Patrol Unit of the Police Service. We used to have small boats, a marine unit years ago. That was disbanded for one reason or the other. We now have that in effect again. Recently, we upgraded their operations, not the least with providing every one of them with a certain kind of training that I cannot now discuss. And we have done some of the things within recent times, I'm talking about within the last 8 months, to make them far more effective. And I can tell you, we are expecting by the end of March some additional vessels for them to make them far more effective to deal with our rivers and to deal with our coastlines from shoreline to 2 miles out. That's their domain. Right. Other vessels pick up after that. So we have improved that in terms of their numbers, their training, their technique, and the equipment. And we continue that work. As I said to you, it is always a work in progress. All equipment has to be maintained and improved as we go along. You would have known that we acquired vessels in 2021 to assist in our border security, and we are treating with that, maintaining them as we have to make sure that they are all ready to do what they have to do. Firearm retrieval is a major issue for us. You would see the police service reporting that they have surpassed the number of firearms they have retrieved in 2022 as compared to 2021. However, the unique feature on this occasion is that 120 of those weapons retrieved as compared to 89 in 2021 are assault weapons using 5.56 and other military-grade ammunition.
We have a video to show you, Minister, before you go.
Yes.
To show you what these police coming up against out there. Before you go ahead, you could continue, but we'll show you it and let the public see what these young men. I saw an AR with a barrel magazine.
Yes.
A drum magazine, sorry.
So a lot of that.
Yeah.
So a lot of that. And of course, brings me back to the customs. When you have loose security on your borders and complicity where it might exist on the part of state officials, it is a real danger, because in some of the recent finds is these kinds of weapons you're finding. And they end up in the streets all over the place. So we have a major firearm retrieval unit, and the Commissioner of Police, Madam Christopher, informed us at an appropriate meeting recently that she intends to re-energize with a particular kind of activity, an operation and some plans, and she is doing that as far as I know, not to be further discussed, to enhance our capacity to mop up, to retrieve the illegal firearms already inside of our borders. And this is where of the public, she has called, previous commissioners have called, ministers of government, the Prime Minister last week in his press out briefing has called for public support, because you will have information law enforcement will not have. And your input is critical to protect all of us. If you know of a gun in your neighborhood, it's a danger. These people are tormenting us wherever we are. And therefore, we need to take the guns out of their hands. Recently, in one of our regional cooperative efforts through CARICOM Impacts and along with the Mines Advisory Group out of the UK, we began the destruction of over 7,000 weapons that were confiscated over a period of time in Trinidad and Tobago. I did the first symbolical cut at the police academy a couple months ago. And we destroyed those along with some 363 in terms of its weight, kilos of explosives that would have been collected in those operations over a period of time. And we continue to do that. So she's wanting to enhance our capacity to retrieve these weapons to make Trinidad and Tobago cleaner. The SSA tells us it's about 12,000 they estimate after tremendous intellectual assessment and work. And we are aiming to mop those up. Meanwhile, secure our borders to prevent the inflow. In this regard, we are cooperating with the United States because we now know as a fact a large amount of these weapons are coming from the United States where they are bought and sold quite legally and freely. But once they cross our borders, then of course they are illegal here because we have a different legal regime. And that is part of our problem. So we are interfacing with the US. Fortunately, they are cooperating fully with us. We have the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms unit on the ground in Trinidad. They assist in tracing these weapons back into the United States. We have an e-trace system that we are using. And they can, when they identify a weapon here, we could trace it right back to the manufacturer, the distributor, who is the importer in Trinidad and Tobago. Very often, the criminal fraternity wouldn't use authentic names and addresses, and this is where our intelligence and our surveillance, and this is where I told you a while ago, you would have seen more fines within recent times, which gives me hope and optimism that we have improved our technique, and we continue to work to improve our technique in order to detect and find them. So firearm retrieval is a major element of our government's policy in this fight. The police service has established, led by Mr. Jacob when he was on the desk, a direct, targeted, active patrol, as the police service calls it, where vehicles are strategically located around the country. We've made vehicles available to the police because they asked for that. Last year, I went to the cabinet, got 80 utility vehicles approved for them. We have issued them, and we continue. We bought another 24 recently. We are going to get more as the finances can allow, to allow the police the mobility to do what they have to do. But these patrols establish some strategic, based on their own intelligence and police knowledge, some locations, and they are able to zero in on crime reports a lot more quickly. And I can tell you as Minister of National Security, it has been working very effectively. You would see more confrontations between getaway bandits. Have you not seen that?
No.
And law enforcement.
No, Shortman put up image E and F. Minister, I must say, with the police service, I mean, we could go way back as when, from when Joanne Archie led the comms unit. And of course, she's still doing so in her capacity now. And we have seen a greater effort from the police to be transparent in what they do and share it with the public. And I really have to mention, congratulate Joanne Archie again for the tremendous work she has been doing in that regard with the unit. And you're familiar with her work, right? And the body cams and the police service. Now, we've noticed as well the interception of bandits went from the time they step outside or they don't get to go too far. That interaction and that interception, that confrontation
let's put it bluntly, confrontation.
Yeah, is really, really up to mark. It's up to mark, and I must congratulate the police on that. In that regard, I must give them their kudos for that.
And yes, they are deserving of that. And of course, those patrols are working. I've seen them myself. I've gone out there and pay attention myself. And I think that is a very important little technique. And we are seeing more. And those targeted patrols. Now, what we have also done, what the police service has done, is to train up what was the highway patrol branch. So they gave them a special kind of training. So it's no longer merely traffic stop you're getting. When them fellas stop you now, it's a kind of trained police that's stopping you with a certain kind of capacity. So they are prepared for any eventuality on the spot. And then they have a criminal investigation deployment within them as well, and capacity. Mm-hmm. So recently, what the highway patrol stop a car, what you call it?
High-end
vehicle, found a small quantity of marijuana therein. But the officers, in the context of their new training and enthusiasm that flows from it, decided that that wasn't enough. They took possession of the man, the car, everything, and they got warrants and they went to the homes of occupants and found, including firearms, other things, larger quantities and firearms. I give you that as an example of the way they are carrying through their capacities, having caught you in a traffic stop on the road. And that is commendable. And that is working. And that is to continue if I am to follow what the Commissioner has indicated to me as Minister of National Security. One of the things I want to highlight, when I came to this ministry, I used to hear about long lines and large crowd outside the Forensic Science Center on a Monday morning after the long weekend. And the police complained to me about certain inefficiencies of the Forensic Science Center. I took a personal responsibility to that. And I brought together the Forensic Science Center and the police. And we have collaborated effectively since then. And I can tell this country today that the police are now, yesterday, they found a body day before yesterday. And in the course of their inquiry, the police needed to have the autopsy done. Usually they would have had to wait until Monday when the Forensic Science Center opened again. But yesterday, the Forensic Science Center mobilized itself and came out and performed the autopsy on this body in the middle of a police investigation, found ballistic evidence, which the police in the middle of their investigation now have. Previously, they would have gotten access to this ballistic evidence long time, months, sometimes years after. Because we have a system in the Forensic Science Center, the IBIS system. And what they have started doing in this collaboration in the last few months is to upload ballistic information as it comes, real time. So the police in the middle of the investigation are now able to say the bullet found in this man's body was used in another crime 2 months ago where John and Brown was suspects, and they're now able to make the necessary linkages. I want to say in conclusion on this matter, the Police Service Homicide Bureau is now reporting to me as minister through its commissioner that they are quite happy with the collaboration and it has improved their investigative capacity and technique. And in fact, they are solving more crimes. You would have seen in 2022, they solved more murders. The solve rate is improving. And in fact, the police also established a cold case unit led by a batch of mine, retired from the police service ordinarily, but still willing to serve his country. So on a contract, he is leading a team in this cold case unit where they are taking all the cases. In fact, in 2022, they solved about 25 cold cases from as far back as 2014 and 15 and 16 by doing what has to be done with the help of this ballistic information that is now coming. So the solve rate is improving. And this is why I said last week when I addressed the national community from the National Drug Council, which is another agency, and you were present, within national security, that we have gone to the gym and we are building muscle, meaning we are improving our techniques. And you are seeing the results of it. And in the midst of all of this, I, Fitzgerald Hinds, Member of Parliament, Minister of Government, man, I am confident that we are heading north. I am confident that it is getting better. And I'm looking forward to the immediate and the longer-term future for Trinidad and Tobago in these regards. Please.
Minister, before we take the break, two issues that we still to get the public's assurance on and confidence. And by the way, folks, if you're just joining us, you know, we have no stranger in the studio here. It's Minister Fitzgerald Hinds, and he's taking us through the paces here this morning. And Minister, one thing I would like to see for the police service to improve on is the manner in which suspects are transported and if we could have vehicles for them, specifically designed for that. You've been to police service around the world, and you see there are vehicles designed in certain ways that you put a suspect safely inside, handcuffed, no doubt, but it's retrofitted for transport. We would love to see that one day for our police service, instead of raising this tailgate and putting them to sit in the back.
Also, how suspects are dealt with after having been shot by police. They cannot just dump them in the back of a van and take them to the hospital.
That's one change we would like to see.
That is absolutely horrific. I mean, I can't even imagine what the relatives of this so-called criminal, we don't know, he's dead.
And then the body cameras.
Shortman,
could you put up the image of the body cameras? We could touch that.
There's a video, actually. It's a video.
Okay, hold on. Minister, go ahead.
Those kinds of things are governed by the law and governed by the police regulations. If a man is dead, discernibly so, assessed to be so by the police, they will call the district medical officer, who will then pronounce the man dead and order the body removed to an appropriate place.
But that do always happen.
If in a shooting incident, the police have not, the man is wounded, but he, in the police's eyes, are not deemed dead. What they do is to take the man as quickly as possible to a medical institution. So those are the principles guided by the law and guided by the police regulations. However, what actually happens on the ground in a particular case is a matter of its own facts, and I cannot and will not comment upon it. So I've just explained to you, sometimes when you see them moving someone in a car or in some way, it is because they will tell you, and they are now taking these people as quickly as possible for medical attention. I will comment no further upon that.
That can't be acceptable, though, Minister.
Well, I do understand what you have said, but all I can do is outline to you the ought, and if you have particular cases of the is, you can highlight them. But I can only speak about the ought, and from a position of my own knowledge of the law and understanding of how it works.
And let's see the video on the body cameras.
It's video. It's not number F. Short.
So this is what was sent us by unit. This is what the body cameras of the police service, and you can, as we said, join us on Facebook or YouTube.
Technology.
And this is what the body cameras are supposed to do. Technology and the Trinidad and Tobago
Moving
police
forward
service.
in the 21st century means moving with technology. Technological advances have made life in general easier. It's no surprise that the TTPS is taking full advantage of these advances as a way of making their jobs more effective. The latest innovations in technology can not only make police work safer for officers, but for the public as well. The internet is undoubtedly a powerful tool. Social media has afforded increased interaction between the police and the public. The downside to this for law enforcement is that the criminal element has also become a bit more sophisticated. The TTPS plans to stay ahead of the game. Body cams. ERP offices are outfitted with body cams. Body cams offer a measure of transparency into police work. They not only capture footage that can be used as evidence, they also ensure that police are not abusing their power and using unnecessary force. We have all heard of instances where police have been accused of the worst. But now with body cam technology, citizens will think twice about making false claims against police officers, and at the same time it makes officers more accountable for their actions. What you've seen today are some of the technological strides made by the TTPS under the leadership of Commissioner Gary Griffith. A more effective police service makes for a safer Trinidad and Tobago, transforming the TTPS through technology. The TTPS, to protect and serve with pride.
Right, so as I said, this was part of the package that we received from your ministry, and of course, do you agree with this concept here, and is it ongoing?
What?
What we just saw there.
The use of the technology? Of course.
Yes.
You have to do that. You have to do that in this sophisticated, growingly sophisticated world where criminals are making use of all kinds of technologies. Mm-hmm. We have to do that too, and we do it to the extent that we can afford and it's available, we do that. One more thing I need to let the public understand. Previously, we would have had to rely on the small number of persons in the Forensic Science Center to do our DNA and our ballistic arrangements. Well, the police service in the last couple of years have provided a bit of a solution. They trained a number, 25 officers at the CERU, what they call CERU, Evidence Recovery Unit, and at Komuto. And having trained them, we then sent them to the Forensic Science Center where they got practical hands-on tutoring by the experts there, 21 of them. And recently, having completed their full training now, they too have become tool mark examiners, certified so. And they have now been gazetted. So we have in that way increased in our link with the police service. You now have police officers who have acquired that technical capacity and have enhanced the numbers, and therefore we will see more resolutions when firearms are used in crime scenes. And then we took another 5 of them and we did the same thing in respect of DNA. So they are now inside of the DNA unit of the Forensic Science Center, getting the necessary training to work along with them. So they are like a liaison between the police and the forensic, at the same time enhancing the numbers in the forensic, improving our technique in terms of solving crime and pursuing criminals in the way this society wants us to. I told you earlier, as a consequence of all of that, of our detection and our solve rate is improving. One of the technologies that we have used for many years, not with the greatest efficiency, but within recent times, the government has agreed, cabinet agreed, and we have now contracted to install 2,500 cameras around Trinidad and Tobago at locations identified by the intelligence agencies and the police service. And that work, I can tell you without more, is actually underway. And in fairly short order, we should see these coming to bear on the society. As it now stands, we have 1,679 or so cameras. As I said, to one kind of effect or not, very often some not working, they're looking in the wrong direction, all kinds of things. Well, we are now moving to a more modern application of this, and with those 2,005, and we'll cover Trinidad and Tobago, we anticipate serious improvement. In addition to that, we are upgrading existing technology to try to create what is known in international best practice as a smart city concept, where with the use of cameras, facial recognition, number plate recognition, and other things, we hope to create what is called in crime fighting internationally a smart city, to give law enforcement the ability to track and to trace and to identify individuals. In the United Kingdom, when you leave your home at 7 in the morning to go to work, you are going to be photographed. You know that. About 54 times the experts say, and you could say that you was in Northamptonshire. They will show you yourself in London at 2:10 p.m. You understand? So that they use that kind of technology, and we are aiming in the context of that best practice to get there. And those are some of the things that we are doing now in response to our immediate problems in Trinidad and Tobago.
Right. Let's go for a break.
Let's go to our
Let's go to a break. Give me a chance to take a sip. We'll be right back here on Dependency. And remember, those of you on YouTube especially, please like and subscribe to the channel so that you will know when we go live and keep in step with us. All right, so stay right there. We'll be back.
I can see clearly now the rain is
At Guardian Group, we've seen so many of our customers achieve great things. From key moments when together we've planned for the future to those unforgettable days when you've celebrated the rewards of those great decisions. So, it's no surprise that after 175 years, our optimism is stronger than ever. Because when you've partnered with people to achieve their best lives as long as we have, you tend to see the world a little brighter every day. Guardian Group. Live easy.
Some of us like to play games of chance. But remember, gaming should be fun. So don't get carried away. Play for a prize, but don't pay the price. Play for fun, but never for keeps. Play smart, but never play all. Winning isn't everything. If you or someone you know needs help, call our gambling addiction hotlines. Rebirth House 24-hour hotline 466-3146 or Serenity Place Empowerment Center for Women 794-7980. An initiative of NLCB and Eye on Dependency.
Go, sona. I come in and don't give me no attitude there.
You have shit on manners, boy. I wish I had your touch, boy.
You have to groom them. First, you have to target them. Scope them out. See if they have low self-esteem, family problems, you know? Then you move in and gain the trust.
I like your glasses.
After that, you feel a need. Some of them like nice things like fancy phones, hairdos, clothes, food. It have ones who only looking for somebody to care and listen to the problems. You feel me? What's important though, you have to isolate them from the people. Let them believe it's all about you and them.
I care about you.
Then you get through.
Nice, nice.
Look one right here. Try thing now.
A message from the counter-trafficking unit of the Ministry of National Security.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency, and we have in studio the Honorable Fitzgerald Hinds, Minister of National Security. And as we expected, we are fast approaching the 12 o'clock hour, so we do have a few other questions for the Minister that we would like him to address before we start taking your calls. You spoke about the police and the Defense Force, Minister. Can you now speak to the prison service, some of the efforts that have been made to improve their operations, and the fire service as well?
Well, from the fire service, which is one of the quieter agencies in national security,
but they're doing
it's
excellent
usually
work.
Yes, excellent work, excellent community work, keeping us safe, but it's all done so quietly. They're like an insurance policy. You have to have them. They're there to serve you when it comes without too much fanfare, and they're very science-based. Mm-hmm. It has been really, since I'm at this desk, about providing them with equipment, whether it is smoke
detectors.
Not smoke detectors, public awareness. They are very much involved in many campaigns making the public aware.
Yes.
They have their search and rescue team which goes into action when people find themselves in difficulty wherever they might be. And of course, as well, it's about providing them with equipment, vehicles and so on. And I've gone to Cabinet and we have ordered, in fact, a couple of days ago, I think it was Thursday, I approved the visit of a couple of fire officers to different locations where vehicles are being custom built for them, tenders.
Okay.
And they will be going there to see what is happening and make sure it's in keeping with the specifications. So it's really about that. So we have provided them with some upgraded equipment and more equipment, and they continue because, as I say, from the time the fire service was established, I think it was 1951. It used to be part of the police service. From that day on until today, they will always require new vehicles upgrades. So some people in this country behave as though, well, you need a new truck, like if it's something new. It's not new, it's just part of the evolution.
Yes.
And they make requests and we fulfill them because we have to do that in order for them to protect you. And yes, the fire service. The prison service, similarly in terms of plant and equipment, and we constantly at work trying to give them the things they need. As I say, a large part of my job is about problem solving. When I have to, I go to the cabinet, make approaches for funding for various things, and that too is ongoing with the prison service. Their job is to hold and to treat in the context of our rehabilitation policy to prevent recidivism. And they are doing that. We have serious challenges in the prison because there are many people who commit serious murderous crimes, find themselves in the prison and take the attitude that they don't want to stay there. They want to come out. They're making constant attempts to break out, and they are quite prepared to kill prison officers, threaten officers' family, kill, call shots from inside and the outside. That is happening in front of our eyes, and the fight against that continues.
For those of you having connection issues, I see that, but hang on. If you're still having that, the YouTube channel is running smoother, so you can try that one in case you're having any issues on Facebook.
To the YouTube channel.
And let me say this, in terms of the behavior, you made reference to it, Natasha, and the attitude of some of our citizens, particularly some of our young men. Listen, they're not easy, you know. I read in today's paper as well, and I brought this article because I want to bring it to the nation's attention for several reasons. They don't lock up nobody under the anti-gang law. That's not true. Last year, about 91 persons were arrested and charged under anti-gang law. And I'm reading in today's papers, and I quote from page 7 of today's Guardian, I think it is. No, Express. A Mova man was denied bail on charges that he and 2 others tried to force a contractor to pay tax. What is happening around here is when the government or different agencies try to conduct developmental work to improve the drains, the roads, the bridges, the buildings, even private citizens now building a house in the neighborhood, criminals coming to them and telling them, we have to work here or you have to pay me money. Criminals going to HDC tenants and telling them you have to pay we rent.
What?
Yes. Criminals have put people out of their house. Hence the reason why when I was in the Ministry of the Attorney General, seeing this injustice in our society and taking offense at it at a personal level, and in terms of my responsibility as a member of Parliament, I went to the Parliament as a minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General along with Faris Al-Rawi. I got the drafters together. We drafted an amendment to the Trespass Act, an old act, which required civil proceedings to get somebody out, and converted that kind of behavior to criminal conduct, leading to 5 and 10 years jail if you go and put anybody out the house or threaten anybody for them to leave the house for you and your gang to take it over. And the police have intervened on the basis of this new law. I did that. The government did that. That is what is happening. So hear this piece. The Mova man was denied bail on charges that so when contractors come on the scene, they go to them and they demand money. Otherwise, you can't work, and they're quite prepared to shoot up the job too. And they have done that. They have done that. So people have to pay the police all kind of money in extra duty to carry on state developmental work. This is not new in the world, you know. This is happening in other countries. But we have to grapple with it as well here in Trinidad and Tobago. So, and they named the persons, and one was charged for being a gang leader, another for demanding money by menace, a third for receiving stolen items, and a fourth on a charge of laundering money. Now, the investigations unearthed gang-related activities contrary to Section 4 of the anti-gang law. I brought this, and I want to share this with the public. One of them, the leader, the one who's charged for being the leader, he was not granted bail. The other 2 was granted substantial bail with conditions that they stay 50 feet at least away from the victim, and they must report to the Mova police station between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. 3 times per week. That's the way the court is establishing control over them during the period of their bail, pending the full trial. I brought this to the nation's attention today to show several things. One, that the police are active under the anti-gang law, contrary to public expressions from those who are ignorant or play they don't know the facts. That is one. The other reason why I bring this is because it shows this could only have happened if the contractor would have stood up and reported this matter to the police for investigation. A lot of people take their pain quietly because they are afraid. Some pretend to be afraid. There are communities where the little lady selling hot dog, the little lady selling wings and fries have to pay tax to criminals in the communities, you know. And it could only happen if a report is made. And of course, as Ira Matur said, and as we know, because we have witness protection and we have the justice protection program, and this program, I don't want to say too much, but it can allow protection inside and outside of Trinidad and Tobago. This is an international practice, and we have that.
So for instance,
the society has to take a stand against the criminals. If you cow and you back and they just run all over the society. So I read this article to show that some citizens decided to report the matter, to stand up, and the police have done what they have to do, and now it is up to the courts to do what they have to do. And that is how the whole system works. This is why we call on the public to be strong and to have a vision of what you want for your community, what you want for your country, and to join us. And where you have information that is detrimental to this effort, there must be some police officer, must be some person who you could speak to in confidentiality. And I must add, many do. Many
Minister,
do.
We agree, and we agree that should be how things work, but I'm sure there are many people equally who have taken that step to report matters to the police. They are ignored, they are dismissed, they go to the station, they have no receipt book, go to the station, you cannot make a report.
Sometimes the police attitude is very repelling. Yes.
And
I
think I just feel like the average citizen is sometimes reluctant to take that step to make a police report because of those barriers.
Yes.
Because I was telling the minister, there's a little lady from Gopal Avenue, and
yes.
she has been, if you see message after message after message, we've tried to help, but we could only do so much. And so what you're saying, that an average citizen like that should, if they don't feel confident, how do we build their confidence?
She can go to the senior superintendent in charge of the division. She could go to the inspector if the constable on the desk is not responding. And yes, I agree with all of those things. I've heard many of those too. But I'll tell you something. This is why there's ongoing public relations, let me call it that, public interface training taking place in the police service. The commissioner has assured me of that. They really have to be a little more receptive across the board. Now, I get many stories of police officers who go the extra mile. About 2 weeks ago, I saw a police assistant superintendent on Park Street around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I saw him the Saturday after. That was a Friday afternoon. I saw him the day after and told him I made observations. I made the observation that I saw him there by himself. And from time to time, we were stuck in the traffic, he came off the pavement, assisted with the traffic, and did his thing. He then explained me, this was outside of TNTech on Frederick Street, that he had gone there to TNTech, was waiting on them to do something. So while they're waiting, he come outside to be a police, to double use the time, and was doing it great and quite effectively. But what took him there, it was to get TNTech, and this was, I think, the day before Christmas Eve, Eve of Eve as we call it, or Christmas Eve Day. Yeah, one of them. He went there because he was trying to get TNTech to reinstate the electricity in some family house in his district before the close of play on Christmas Eve Day. Now, I was so touched by that. We have seen police officers act as midwives
Yes.
in the back seat of the same cars of which we speak. Yes. In some cases, police officers use their personal vehicles and use money out of the pocket. So it works both ways. But the bottom line is citizens do go and meet ill-responsive, ill-mannered police officers sometimes. Not just police officers, teachers too.
Witness, yes.
Teachers
all
too,
over.
nurses too.
Yes.
We have a way in Trinidad and Tobago that once we get the job, we get big and we get powerful and we start, flaunting it on people who come here. And I tell the police, police station is not for you. I understand you need to be comfortable in accordance with OSH law, but it is really for the end user, it's for the public. Everything you do here and offer is a service to the public.
Thank you.
And across the board. Now, just to carry on with what Ira Mathur said, I have decided, worked out in my own anecdotal way as a citizen of this republic, as a politician, practitioner, as a parliamentarian, as a professional lawyer, I have enough experience to be able to say, without fear of contradiction, about my country that we are faced with 3 problems that affect our development, affect our operations, and if we would correct them, we would be far better off. 8 economists are blocked at the Ministry of Finance's spotlight on the economy. I asked them together, if Trinidad and Tobago became optimally productive, if we all worked as hard as we are supposed to, paid for, sworn to do, what would be the effect of that on the economy? To the man, I asked every one of them in turn, to the man they said the economy would immediately grow by 20 to 25%. That is one. The cake will get bigger for all of us. That is one. I worked out the quality of life will improve because when you go to the station, when you go to the hospital, when you go to the school, you will achieve your goal, you will feel better in doing it, the child will be better taught, the relations between school and principal and parent would be a whole lot better. All of that, the quality of life will also improve. My first point is, I think this nation, our workforce, public and private, need to step up our game. I've seen examples of ultimate productivity in this world. I've seen it. We know as Trinidadians, if you go to work in the United States and you go into work late or you ain't come to work, somebody in your place tomorrow, ain't?
Correct.
But here, we have a different kind of thing and we need to be improving that. Some have tried in the past, others have tried, but we need to step up our productivity. That's one.
Yes.
And it affects our development. The second issue I have identified, without fear of contradiction, is corruption and complicity on the part of state officials. We have discussed some of that already here today. Corruption is a major impediment to our national growth and development and well-being. Corruption. Yep. Especially when it involves public corruption, meaning complicity on the part of officers of the state working with private people who want to pay bribe and do all kind of things to get their way. To our disadvantage.
Yes.
And that is what generates some of the fear that you described a while ago and all kinds of things. And the third issue that I think afflicts Trinidad and Tobago in a very serious way, don't laugh at me, is good old Trini Bacchanal. There's precious little that can happen anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago, small, medium or large, without Bacchanal.
You must have that.
Why?
That's our culture, I think.
Why can't we see a problem, professionally assess the problem, work out intellectually and professionally the resolution, like a doctor does on a human body, get to work without rancor, without bacchanal, without noise, do the job and come out and say thank God and wait for the next one or go for the next one? Why can't we as a nation just do that? Everything in this country is rara and bacchanal, bacchanal, bacchanal. Everything.
I think that stems from our inability to take responsibility for things and accountability. I think that stems from that.
I think so too, in large part. But the reason why I raised this article is to demonstrate that it is possible to work the system. The civilian has done his thing. The police have done their thing professionally and properly. And it is now for the court to adjudicate in this matter. And if and when sentences are passed, the prison will deal with it in the context of the rehabilitation. It really is a seamless system. It's about us getting it to work properly. I don't think we have any shortage of laws. Of course, we need to upgrade laws as the circumstances warrant it. We need to upgrade our technologies. We need to upgrade our human resource through training and so on. But I think we are headed in the right direction.
Minister, Defense Force?
Migration.
Yes, we'll touch on that too. Yeah. So we'll bring in the Defense Force. Bring up that with regard to Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and recruiting. Now, Minister, the migrant population, they have that issue with the registration card. You all have been discussing that yet? And any word for them?
Yes.
On how they...
Yes, I have a report here at the end of 2022 in respect of our migrant registration framework, where the government of Trinidad and Tobago, in light of the migration that has been taking place and was accentuated from 2018 to 2019, the government took a decision. Because Venezuelans were here long before that. Many of them who registered in this program demonstrated that they were here 8 and 9 years prior to that registration. Venezuelans have been here a long time and coming. But the numbers were accentuated due to social and political circumstances in Venezuela. We decided, as a friend of Venezuela, as a neighbor, and most of all recognizing that many of them were already here, to conduct this registration framework program so that we will know who they are. They will be registered. They wouldn't have to live daily with the indignity and the fear of being thrown out. We said, all of you who are here illegally, not only Venezuelans, any citizen, any human person who was in Trinidad from whichever state, come forward and we will treat with this. We'll give you the opportunity to be here. We'll give you a work permit for a year and we will take it from there. We did that and we have been re-registering since then. I got this report and the total number of recommended applications in the in the current year, meaning 2022, as at the end of 2022, received by us was 9,133. I would have approved 9,133 of them. A total of 449 were not recommended. The reasons I would tell you would have included where some of them, if you commit crime here, if you go contrary to the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, that was one of the terms of the registration, you will be sent to your home. That was done in some of those cases where Interpol would have identified that you had criminal pursuits, associations, engagement, criminal conduct, where some of them would have committed crimes in Trinidad and Tobago. Once they are arrested and dealt with, they are also sent back. Some of them would have voluntarily departed Trinidad and Tobago. As I said, some of them charged for criminal offenses, convicted. So those are, some of them would have been in breach of deportation orders or would have been discovered to have made false declarations on the registration. So for these reasons, 449 of them were not recommended. But I approved 9,133 and that process continues. There are 4,710 pending applications. As at that time, I'm sure I would have dealt with some in between then and now. And so the story goes. So we gave comfort. We gave comfort to those who were here. We opened the doors to all to provide them with dignity, a means of earning income. I hardly hear of any unemployed Venezuelans here. The police are reporting some of them engaged in criminal conduct. And once that is discovered and they're arrested, we deal with them. And many have left and continue in collaboration with the Venezuelan embassy, with whom we work very closely in our collaborative and cooperative effort, have voluntarily departed. Things have gotten better in Venezuela and they chose to return to their country, and that has been an ongoing part of the exercise.
So is it now, Minister, that the migrants whose stay has been approved, has that period of time been extended? Is there
always extended? Each year since then we have been extending it, and as at this time we have indicated our willingness to extend it again and carry on with it. Now, there are those who are coming here since then illegally, In those cases, when they are detected, when they are found, they are promptly, with the collaboration with the Venezuelan embassy involved in the process, they are repatriated to Venezuela and their countries, because others come, from other parts of the
But Minister, is there an announcement I could make to employers who have some Venezuelans under the employ with the cards that has expired? Because we understand that some employers are not renewing engagement with them because of that.
That is all part of the administrative issue, and I can tell you from a position of fact that there are many cards, updated cards, sitting at the ministry that they have not come to collect.
Okay, there you go.
All right. So take that on board.
Right.
And that's a fact. Now, I read in one of the papers this week a UNC member of parliament talking about the number of murders and that Hinds should go. And I heard the opposition leader talking that too. Well, they are free to express a view. But I just wanted to share, because I asked my research department just to pull up, because some people behave as though all crimes start since the PNM came to government in 2015. And it gets worse since Hinds became Minister of National Security, because I am the one who create all of it. That is the way they speak in their ignorance and folly, and I take note of it. Now, I just want to read for this country some headlines. From 2011, when Kamla Prasad Bisesa, we in the PNM, we don't celebrate murders. We don't chant and sing. I personally, from my knowledge, I did criminology at postgraduate level at the University of London and got a merit mark for my master's degree. In the context of that learning, I got to understand what are the theories in relation to the causes of crime. So with that knowledge, I understood I couldn't blame no government for crime. We have a responsibility to do certain things, policies, provide resources, strengthen our institutions, improve the criminal justice system. The state does have those responsibilities, and we seek to carry them out effectively. But to say a minister is responsible for a murder and blood on my hands and all these kind of a talk, I don't too subscribe to that. And just to show you, in case the public forgets, on the 3rd of January 2011, here the Express headline on that day: 7 killings in the first 4 days of 2011. That's the sad history of Trinidad and Tobago. But I just saying it so that people will understand that we have been a violent society for a very long time. February the 1st, 2011, the Newsday, 46 murders in the month of January. Look, it's all here, Mr. Sinclair. On the 3rd of January, patients run short for crime progress. In July of 2011, I just took us some of it. Mom, son's throat slit in La Hoqueta. And I can go on and on and on until, of course, August of 2021. Right?
Minister, can I
when a
limited
August the 21st, 2011, when a limited state of emergency was declared after 6 persons were murdered in Arima that weekend. So I am just saying this to demonstrate to Trinidad and Tobago that we have been for a long time a very violent society, and with the increase in the number of weapons, with the increase in the number of assault and automatic weapons, we are seeing in more events quadruple murders, triple murders, double murders, and I have the statistics here in larger numbers explaining this. And I understand from a man yesterday, before I give you away, that even on social media there is something called bandit. He tells me that they're teaching people how to be a bandit. Some bandit thing.
Look, the bandit.
Man, you all don't know.
I know that's
Thank
a
God you all
Facebook
don't
page,
know. But no. I'm saying there's some game
that came.
Gangs, some bandit thing, yeah. And you know, we are actually teaching our children in the world today all kinds of things. And the question, as Raj Shorty I asked, if that is what you put in, what do you expect to get out? So we are getting increasingly violent. And of course, we have to increase and improve our techniques to respond to it in the ways that I have described for you this morning. Please.
No, God, can we open the line so that we can engage with the questions and the concerns of the listening audience?
And the minister, you know, again, we have to extend an invitation for you to do a part two of this program, and it is critical. I realize how much things that you have to unfold and unroll to the public. We've had questions here. We even scratched some of this, the surface yet. Like, Shopman, if you put up the image of give me the video, Shopman, that I showed you, that I sent for you yesterday, to show what the police coming up against out there. And this is part of the culture that the young men are gravitating to, Minister. This is why questions about mandatory. Now, look at this weaponry that these guys were showing off just recently. And this is what the police coming up against. And it will come up on the screen on top just now. And look at that. Look at it here. Now, give me some volume, right? Now, a magazine a transparent magazine, and watch this. This is an AR. This is what the AR looks like, and this is the drum magazine I was telling you about that this young man has. You see, that now the police running into that holding 100 rounds flat. That drum magazine can hold 100. They could keep police at bay for quite a while if they have numbers. If they have strength in numbers when police encounter them. So this is what we're coming up at them.
And our sons and daughters in the police and the defense force who have to come up against it, they know how the shoe fits and how it feels. And when I was a police officer and we went on a block, we were 95% certain that the gun on the block would have been the police gun. Exclusively, only. Today, when the police go into a scene, they know that it is quite a different story. And by the way, as you would know best, Mr. Sinclair, the drugs that some people are consuming now gives them a feeling of being invincible. So when you, in your normal, sober way, and the average member of the society thinks that if you see a police officer, it should check your behavior, restrain your behavior. If a police officer shouts, "Stop! Put your hands up!" you drop the gun. A normal person will understand the implications of that. But if you are pumped up with ecstasy or heroin and you feeling like a bear, like a lion, because I've seen documentaries where they go through these things and they believe that their skins are impervious, they rush into the police. So the police now have, on the basis of their regulations, different tiers or levels of force to respond to different levels of threats. So it is from caution and oral caution to a baton, to taser, to pepper spray, which I must take the opportunity to say, contrary to what the opposition has been saying, is very much available to the distributors and to members of the public. The last I heard from the police on application to the police commissioner and so on. And of course, the police has, as I say, different levels of force that they could use, all the way up to lethal force. And the police now will have to explain, because the police are accountable to the Constitution, accountable to the law, accountable to the courts in terms of the law, to explain their behavior in any particular case. And one expects that they will be able to justify any decisions that as professionals they take in any particular set of circumstance. While we are at it, I want to tell you this. Of the 605 murders, the police commissioner recently advised me that altercations, little squabbles on a block by a bar inside of a house have led to 51 of those murders. No police will be in the living room. No police will be necessarily in that bar or in that space. Altercations, the police determined, accounted for 51 of them. where we get violent, we get hot, and we run for a gun, we run for a cutlass, we run for a knife, and it results in a murder. Revenge killings, 79 of them. Gang violence, the biggest of all, 245 were, according to the professionals of the police service, responsible. 245 were the responsibility of gangs fighting each other. So the police have to impose itself on that, come in between them, break them up, mash up the gangs, lock them up under the anti-gang law, seize the weapons, put them in jail, do all of the things that the police have to do. And then, of course, the courts will take it up from there and the prison after. And vision and mission and all the other rehabilitative operators. And I'll tell you, that 245 is 40.5% of the 605. Rape, somebody died in a rape attack, 1 victim. Robbery, 52. When some of our citizens and perhaps some of our visitors or guests here, because we've seen where other people here go and carry out robbery, they decide, notwithstanding all of the opportunities that this government and this state has made available, they decide to abandon their human gifts, God-given strengths, talent, 16 ounces of grey matter, 2 hand, 2 foot, long, heart, all of the gifts and the talents that God has given you. You have decided to abandon that and assume the ethos of an animal. And you decide, like a rat, like an animal, to go. No, just a second.
That animals have a distinct.
All right. Okay. I'm saying that God has created human beings superior to all other animals.
I disagree with you on that.
All right. You will disagree. I don't. And I therefore think we are superior, and therefore we have choice, and we have moral considerations, and we can respect each other, and we know who own what. We don't have to take away what somebody else have. I think that is subhuman. And I think it is in that context I'm saying, when you give up all these blessings and gifts and potential and talent, and then you decide to go and snitch and grab and hide behind a dark fence or in a gully and come out and grab, that is on, I am sure it displeases God. And some of these robbery attempts led to 52 murders. 52 of the 605. Drug-related issues, according to the police, 95 of them caused, 95 of the deaths we had last year were caused over issues for drug turf and drugs. Right? Domestic intimate, meaning between intimate partners, 12 of them. Non-intimate domestic, like in a case in Digo Martin, which I will never forget. 2 brothers have an argument. One of them tell the other one to go in for a gun and come back. He went in fact for the gun and come back, and like Cain, killed his brother. His brother. Line of duty, some police or some person, right? And then, line 1, relationship motivated, 8. So that might be some man and some woman issue outside of the domestic environment. And of course, 47 the police have not been able to classify, so they call it unknown in terms of the probable cause. And in mistaken identity 1, the police were able to identify where some citizen lost his life on account of mistaken identity. Those are some of the things that we are up against.
And
a total of 605 of them.
And then there's gang recruitment too. They have to kill somebody to join a gang, and that's all that is part of the
job. The callers, God, we have 6 minutes left until 12
Minister,
o'clock.
And then, of course, the question keep coming up is about a definitive answer about because again, some of the ones who have their cards already, Minister, you will see that when you check the comments, you will see that keep reoccurring. And because one said that the card have expired and they will get an extension, I think the employers. I think they want to know. They want to know that more for the employers.
We have indicated that we will continue the migrant registration program. It will be extended to accommodate those that we have given comfort to for the time being.
Right.
And those who are waiting cards should proceed, contact the ministry so that the cards that are sitting there can be handed out, and those that are not sitting there can be prepared if they are not yet prepared.
6223937.
I think we need to say that in Spanish.
Yes, Araceli is listening and she will repeat that.
Yeah. Yes.
She will put that in Spanish on the Facebook feed and YouTube. Araceli, so just do your thing. You heard the minister. I know you are quick at this.
Yes, they want more information about what the ministry is doing for immigrants. That's the...
Yes, somebody just posted
That's
a question in Spanish there.
Well,
is asking.
Yes, everyone who enters Trinidad and Tobago non-national must comply with the immigration laws of Trinidad and Tobago on entry, and it is in compliance with those that the immigration officers will permit entry for whether it's 3 months, 6 months, whatever time frame they see fit, in accordance with the law. If you are in breach of the immigration law, you put yourself in a very bad place, and as the courts have recently explained in a matter, the greater the breach, the more criminality or illegality, the harder the opposition becomes for consideration for regularization. You can apply under the Immigration Act for resident status. You can apply for, that's permanent residence. You can apply for citizenship. There are several applications you can make, and I can tell you it's voluminous, but the Immigration Department is doing the business. I found myself that it was a lot slow in coming. There were many backlog cases, and I don't seek no acclamation. But those who work with me in Ministry of National Security will know that in the last year and few months that I have been there, we cleaned out the backlog. And now I am seeing reports from the immigration and recommendations in files from November of 2022 and December of 2022. All those who work with me in immigration and in the ministry's administration will tell you I took the time over weeks and months to deal with every one of them.
Gary, let's see if we could get at least one or two.
But these are things the public couldn't see, but I give the assurance the system is rolling, and from time to time, people challenge issues under the law as they can for judicial review and otherwise. When the court makes pronouncements, we are guided by the court's interpretation of that law, and we proceed accordingly.
Morning.
Let me say good morning. Good morning to you, Minister.
Good morning, sir.
And compliments of the day. I've been listening to your utterances and I listened to the work that the police is doing at this point in time. I'll just make three quick comments, if I may, quickly. One, in respect to we the people have to be the first call in terms of reducing crime and resolving crime in this country, we the people. Secondly, the churches, the NGOs, like I Dependency, doing a fantastic job. Vision and Mission doing a fantastic job. Even my little organization, Center for Justice, which we now started the I Love My Street, trying to improve streets and making people feel proud of their community. These are things that is needed. Beyond that, the police, and then finally the courts. But if all of this is done, and then that court system, that court situation, where matters are taking 10, 15, 20 years, where persons are just going in for serious crime and coming out on bail to pay the money, as the case may be, then it comes all to naught. And though the court system is not directly in your hands, Minister, I am saying all the hard work that you are doing and all the hard work that all the others are doing, if the court system is not, we don't spend millions of dollars of bringing special courts and do things, it may come all to zero. I don't know how you look at it, but Minister, as your colleague and as your friend, I feel it is important that we look at the court system at this point in time. I put it to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I did say earlier that I am in direct, through the Attorney General, collaboration constantly with the courts. And I'm satisfied that the court, led by the Chief Justice, is fully sensitized to the issues and exerting best efforts. The government has done certain things with amendments to certain legislation and the provision of resources, and the judiciary is doing that too, and the police organization. We are now filing matters in the court online. Coming out of COVID, we're not going back. The whole structure has changed, and in fact, right now I am due to schedule a meeting with all of the divisional commanders of the police service led by their commissioner, along with elements of the judiciary, so that together as professionals they could see how the police work will articulate with that of the judiciary a lot more efficiently in order to keep this thing ticking over. So it's happening.
All right. Morning.
Good morning, Garth and Natasha. Very great program this morning. And it's nice to know that you have the minister there to come and outline what he is doing, what his ministry has been doing in terms of, we know in Trinidad and Tobago we have a crime issue. And I'm glad the minister outlined a lot of things, because every Monday morning, if a jugman, kill a leg jugman, blame Fitzgerald Hinds. And every Tuesday morning, you will hear them, the minister has to go. And I'm glad he read all the statistics in 2011, and people just feel they was never there. But I want to ask the minister something about unethical behavior. Just recently, the Prime Minister and the opposition, the Constitution outlined that the Prime Minister and the opposition leader must meet to discuss the selection of a president. Was it unethical for the opposition leader to go to that meeting and carry a member of parliament who is before the court on a fraud charge and on $1 million bill? Right? What example she is setting as a former Prime Minister and current opposition leader? I will listen to your comment of the year.
Very quickly, yours is a very, very valid and potent question. I was commenting to one of my colleagues yesterday when I read how Hinds must go because the murder figures were 605. I said to one of my colleagues privately yesterday, you know, the Prime Minister, by virtue of that office, has hundreds of appointments to make. An opposition leader has 6. The opposition leader appointed 6 senators. 1 Senator Anil Roberts. 1 Senator David Naked, who called the president of this country a very offensive name, and when was challenged and it doubled down on it. Something we couldn't do in the PNM and survive. If I did that in the PNM, I would be out of the cabinet by the following morning, if so late. You understand? And that opposition leader sat down and witnessed that educated, dignified public officer who served up to the Court of Appeal, served internationally and as president. And she picked that, and it remains. She picked Jerlene John. She now has Munilal, who I chair a joint select committee, and was told by a police commissioner that the police had to follow he. It is on the Hansard record. He is now shadow national security minister. So you have in 6 picks, you have Naked, you have Anil Roberts, you have one called Lida, you have Jerlene John. They are not in a position to tell me or anybody anything. And it doesn't surprise me who they would carry or who they wouldn't carry to important discussions such as that. The Constitution didn't provide that they meet. The Constitution provides that the President consult with both office holders, and the Prime Minister sensibly invited the opposition leader to meet to discuss the matter, and the rest is now so far history. We'll deal with the balance of that on the 20th when we go to the Parliament in this regard. So I thank you.
We will have you back, Minister.
At some stage, I'll be able to tell you at a later stage if, and not if, but when.
Right.
I have to review my schedule and all of that, and I will certainly at an early opportunity tell you that. Only to suffice it to say now that I thoroughly enjoyed your company. Yours and Natasha's host and Mr. Barrington, I enjoyed interfacing with the public to the limited extent we did. I thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to an improved law enforcement platform in the near and longer term futures. Thank you very much.
All right, folks, you heard it this morning. Minister of National Security, the Honorable Fitzgerald Hinds, and we thank him for his time. We thank the communications person sitting with us with him this morning too as well. We didn't get a chance to touch on everything, but we will get the minister has given his commitment that he'll be back once his schedule allows it, and give you more chance to interact.
They need to know the work you're doing in the Defense Force as we speak. So we will continue.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I want to say I'm grateful for the opportunity. We started with Coast Guard last week, and we're going on to the regiment next.
And we did that with the prison when I was minister in the Ministry of National Security. You and your team spoke to every single prison officer in respect of the entire problem of drugs and the implications of it.
Yes.
Didn't we?
And yes, of course. And it went on pretty well with them, I can tell you that. And it's going on just as, even better now.
So I'm happy to have engaged you in this again, and we appreciate the work you're doing in this regard. May we continue.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Major news up next, Kyle. We thank you very much for your patience.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming. Folks,
thank you very much, Minister.
Join us next Sunday for another edition of our Dependency.
We'll
be here. Yes, sir.
I'm off here now?
Not yet.
Hold on.
Broadcasting from Port of Spain, Trinidad, this is the most influential name in radio, I-95.5.